Well, good evening. It's another episode of Home Theater United. I'm Sam Poston, and tonight I have a whole crew of home theater aficionados, big and small. And we're going to do something unique tonight called the Home Theater United Budget Challenge #1. And this was pretty much the brainchild of one of our guests, Todd Rice. You want to say hey?
Hello, everybody.
Todd had suggested to me that we, take a couple tiers of dollar amounts and see what individual folks at home theater would spend on. And so this is gear entirely. It's not necessarily room treatments and furniture and stuff like that, but just the basics, the sound system, the video, and at least one source, and going from there. And Todd had suggested maybe, a 1K and a 5K limit. And we've come up with a format. We're going to do 1K, 5K, and unlimited. How's that track with your recollection of it, Todd?
Yeah, that's pretty close. I don't know that I would have started at 1K because that's such a challenge, but
it is. I love it.
Yeah, so I'm good with it though.
Okay, cool. And so in addition to Todd Rice, we have another Rice, John Rice. You want to say hey?
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome
or
back,
whatever
John.
time it is.
Yeah, it's evening here on the East Coast. I'm not sure where everybody's out. In addition to John Rice, we have another John Phillips, who goes by John Dirk on the forum. John, you want to say hi?
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We know that you and other John joined us for talking about some of our amps and some of the higher end audio gear. We're interested to see and hear about what you'd think would go into a well-equipped 1K, 5K, and unlimited system, John. So welcome back.
Thank you.
And in addition to our first Todd, we have another Todd with us, Todd Erwin, who I think is in the running for the most guest appearances on HTU. You want to say hi, Todd number 2?
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome back, Todd. We appreciate it. And you got some new audio gear of your own to help with the podcasting?
No.
Oh, just
Same
new
mic that
software.
I've had the last couple times I've been on.
Just new software that we were having fun with before the show. Gotcha.
Yeah, they updated the Rode Connect software.
Right. So for those keeping score, that's 2 Todds, 2 Johns, 2 Rices, and a Sam. So we're going to try to go with full names when we get this kicked off tonight. And I don't have a lot to say before we do that, other than if you can't tell, I've had a little bit of post-nasal drip here, fun and other stuff like that. I don't think it's COVID. I hope it's not COVID. But sorry for the creaky voice, but this has just been such a fun show in the planning. We didn't want to put it off. So apologize up front to folks on that. And why is my phone off of mute? Sorry about that. For those keeping score, that's Summertime from Porgy and Bess, and we'll put a link to that if you could hear that. So we're going to kick it off with the 1,000 limit, and most of the guests expressed a little bit of grumbling about how difficult it might be to come up with a 1,000 budget theater. And so I took that as a challenge, and I'm going to talk about mine first, and we'll see where everybody else spent their money. And I will tell you, as much as I love spending my money, I love spending other people's money too. So if anybody has specific budget questions from our listeners and from Home Theater Forum viewers, if you guys are having trouble figuring out where to put your money, we will help you spend it. And my take on it is, at least at the 1K and 5K limit, try to keep it pretty close between the audio and visual things. A lot of people tend to skip over the audio, just throw up a sound bar, and buy the best TV they can with the money that they've got. And my recommendation is to try to balance it out. So in my 1K budget, I recommend the Energy Take 5 5.1 sound system, and I have 2 of these in my own home. I use them in my office for video game systems, and they sound great. They're $200. And I know Costco has a similar, or at least had a similar Klipsch 5.1 system, and I haven't checked that out, but I would expect that that's also in the same kind of budget area, but I think the energies are even $50 below that. And I paired that with a Denon 570B receiver. I don't have this current model, but I have had similar tier models. It's a good bang for the buck at $400. I recommend an Apple TV 4K, which is just over $100 today, and a TCL 58-inch TV, which I do not have personal experience with, but many people that I trust online have complimented it. And so for the grand total of $993, I'm ready to go with a 1K theater system, and this would be perfect for a bedroom, for an office, and I'm using similar components in my own office, and I think for a gaming system, a little desktop PC, you would be rocking and rolling in 5.1 with a nice little sound system good to go. Who wants to try next and jump in with what they recommended at the $1,000 level?
I'll go ahead and go, Sam, if you don't mind.
Sure, that sounds great, Todd.
And this is Todd Rice. So I took a swipe at it, and at first I had a much larger television, but then just this morning I was reminded of a few things. Back, like when I first started getting into the audio visual stuff, I mean, like 25, 30 years ago, I used to subscribe to like audiophile, stereophile, anything that was AV file on the end of it. I had a subscription to it. And one article I read talked about the value of sound over the picture. And the argument it made was, even if you were watching something on a 13-inch screen, if you had good sound behind it, you could still get lost in the movie. And the movie they used as an example at the time was Glory with Matthew Broderick and Denzel Washington.
And Cary Elwes.
Yes, now that you remind me. So I went a little bit different. I scrapped my original plans and I went with a smaller TV, and I said, let me see if I can find a Dolby Atmos setup and a television for less than $1,000. So the television I found was an LG 43-inch class, UQ 9000. It's an LED 4K UHD smart web, with the operating system, so you could download apps and do the streaming. And I found the sound bar, which was a Samsung HWQ750B/ZA, 5.1.2 channel sound bar. Now the description says with wireless Dolby Atmos, but when I read the reviews, the rear speakers are wired in to a receiver. So it's not completely wireless, but it costs $649.99. I'm sorry, did I say how much the television was?
No.
So the television was $349.99. LG's, good quality. The system I have on my walls in LG, much larger, but that's part of my $5,000 build. Received really good reviews. The only thing that might not be good is it doesn't have HDMI 2.1 according to the descriptions, the specs, but it does have an ARC setting on it. And I know maybe for gaming, I'm not a big gamer. I think 2.1 is probably pretty important to some of the gaming community. But so if I go with streaming, which Sam knows, I've cleaned out all my CD collections, DVD, Blu-ray collections, and I'm an app guy. I stream across Apple TV Plus or Prime Video, those types of devices, so I don't have all the extra stuff in my house. So I came in at $999.98. So that's my $1,000 system.
So Todd, let me make sure I'm understanding this right. With your setup, you'd mentioned that the rears would need to be tied to a receiver. In your $1,000 setup, there is no receiver and thus no rears, or am I misunderstanding what you're doing?
No, I'm sorry. It looks, from the pictures, there's equipment like there must be a box that connects to the sound bar.
Oh, I see. So it's all
Right.
it's all in the box. It's just
Yep, it's all in the box.
it's
but
just
the
not
rear,
it's not fully wireless because somehow or another you got to get that sound there and you got to power it. I mean, there's
Correct.
nobody has true wireless rears these days that are fully set up other than like temporary battery power because somehow
I
you got to either self
well,
self
I
wire them or something like that.
it
Right.
sounds like what it is that there's a wireless receiver amplifier in the back of the room, so it's wireless from the
Sure.
sound bar to the back, but then wires from that receiver amplifier up to the speakers.
Yeah, and have any of our participants ever used a system like that so far?
Not me.
Yeah, so
I used to have the old Rocketfish. I
mm,
used to have the old Rocketfish surround wireless thing.
okay.
Where you used your own speakers, but after a while, it started having problems.
Okay. Well, we've got a pretty good contrast here already. I recommend using the Apple TV for its apps, and Todd Rice is saying that he's going to go with onboard apps on the TV. Pretty cool. How about you, Todd Erwin? What did you come up with?
Well, I had the same TV that you had, Sam.
Okay.
The TCL 58-inch 4 Series.
Mm-hmm.
It's $320 today as part of the President's Day sale at Best Buy.
Okay.
And then I found a receiver, a 7.2 receiver with Dolby Atmos and DTS:X.
Ooh.
It is a scratch and dent at Crutchfield.
Okay.
Apparently they have quite a few of them.
Yep.
It's the Onkyo TX SR494, and it's $315 right now.
Nice. Very nice.
And then I found a 5.1 premium home theater system with subwoofer at Monoprice, the HD35.
Ooh, I was wondering if somebody was going to pick them.
And that was $172.50 right now.
Okay.
And then for my media player, I went with a Panasonic DP UB150K 4K Blu-ray player. It's their no frills, but fairly reliable 4K Blu-ray players. It's just HDR10, no apps, so it just plays discs.
So the TV that you picked and the one that I picked, when I priced it out, it was $289. So that's $30 cheaper than when you saw it. So maybe President's Day sale is not all it's cracked up to be.
Well, where did you price it?
Best Buy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But I went $8 over budget.
Yeah, and so that's a great point too. I think almost everybody came in under budget with one or two exceptions. I'm one of the exceptions, but we all know how budgets expand to accommodate whatever whatever people have their priorities set to. So I said 10% over budget's not a big deal, and I think that's fair because everybody's going to add things to their room and chairs and stuff like that on top of this stuff. This is just a general guide, and if we're over by $5 or $10, we'll call that the difference between what's on sale and what's not. Todd chose a scratch and dent. That's perfectly fair, but again, it's not going to scale to all of our listeners, so you got to be a savvy shopper, and we've talked about different places to buy things and to follow price breaks and stuff like that, including Camel, and the sites that track price drops online. So definitely recommend setting your alerts for any particular gear that you're interested in. How about you, John Phillips? What'd you come up with on this one?
For the $1,000 system, John Rice, you might want to cover your ears.
Oh no!
But I chose the HD Theater 600, which is a $249 5.1 kind of all-in-one system. It includes a down-firing sub, and to pair with that, an Onkyo TX NR 5100, which is a 5.1 receiver, which sells for about $450 right now. And for the video, an LG UQ8000, which is a 50-inch flat panel. And I guess I cheated a little bit on the source too, just assuming that we'd use the TV apps.
That's not cheating at all. That's fairly fairly reasonable, trying to squeeze every dollar out of it here. That's great.
Yeah. And that came in at $997.
Okay.
Now I checked yesterday, and it looks like the Onkyo may have increased a little bit, so it's all about timing.
Yep. Yeah. And so we're not promising that everybody's going to be able to get these prices under $1,000, but we did our level best to find things. And of course, we're looking at President's Day sales too on a lot of this stuff. So maybe it'll hit for listeners and maybe it won't. Perfect. John Rice?
Yep. All right. Well, I went with all Dayton audio speakers.
Ooh.
Because you can get Dayton audio. They've got the T652, which is a full-size floor-standing speaker, two-way. You can get a pair of those for $150. For surround, a 6-inch bookshelf speaker, the B652. Those are $45. And for the center, C452 is a whopping $30.
What?
Yeah, and then they're 8-inch, they're sub 800 is $135. So I don't know what that added up to. I don't have those broken out separately.
Yeah, that's fine.
There is, for like $45, there is an upgrade to all three of those. The Air version, which instead of having a dome tweeter, has a air motion transformer tweeter. And I mean, I think it's $45 more. I'm sorry, no more than that. A little bit more than that, $60 more, something like that no, it's $45 more for all of those speakers to upgrade it to the Air, which would just totally be money well spent.
Mm-hmm.
Like some others here, I also went with the TCL 58-inch 4 Series TV, and since it is a Roku TV, it has pretty solid streaming apps.
Yep.
I had to change my receiver because I had a Yamaha 5.1 channel, and last week it was on sale for $300, and now it's back up to regular price at $400.
Well, we're going to count the sale price, John. I think that's fair.
But I switched. I
Okay.
like my new one.
All right, even better.
I switched it to a refurb from Accessories for Less, a Denon AVR 750H, which is $350, and Todd Rice, I think, kind of went with this. I've been kind of trying to figure out the intricacies of home Atmos. And one of the things is that this receiver, even if you're just using it as a 5.1, well, for one thing, it will expand. It is a 7.1 receiver, but it has Atmos processing.
Okay.
And I've become pretty convinced that even if you just have a 5.1 or 7.1 system, having an Atmos processor makes a significant difference when you're playing an Atmos soundtrack.
Oh, I'll co-sign
that. I have in my living room. I've got a nice higher end Marantz receiver, but it's just a 5.1 system.
Mm-hmm.
And when I added that receiver, there's just a very noticeable improvement in immersion.
Yep. Awesome.
So I kind of advocate that. So that's where I came around to, is that even if you're not setting up an Atmos, you're not doing any ceiling speakers or reflecting speakers, there is a real benefit to having an Atmos capable receiver or processor.
Yeah, I will definitely co-sign that, and that was one of the reasons why I chose the Denon receiver, because it's not their full, that doesn't have the Odyssey that an in-command Denon would have, but it's still very good processing out of the box, and for somebody who's just getting started or is kitting out a smaller room or bedroom, definitely think that it's worth the money well spent. I want to also.
So
Go ahead.
let me just toss in, like, I also I did this last week, and of course had the TV at 290 for the TCL 4 series, a 58 inch. But if somebody wanted to spend another $110, I think the TCL 55 inch 5 series is a huge step up. You gain QLED and you also gain local dimming, where the 4 series is a full array. It's direct lit, it's not edge lit, but there's no dimming.
I see. Well,
and I think, for $110, moving up to QLED and getting local dimming is definitely worth it, but that would throw me over $1,100.
Well, I'm definitely going to ask everybody where they would spend their money if they were going to choose their upgrades from $1,000 system. So that's good to know that you would go that direction. What was your total budget, John?
Well, what I came out was $999.85.
Okay.
The way I gave it without the upgrades.
Right, and so we'll give Todd Erwin the credit for the $289 on his, so he can knock his budget down a little bit.
Sure.
So one thing I want to add, you'd mentioned accessories for less, and I want to give a huge thumbs up to them. I have bought refurbs from them in the past. They are an authorized dealer for Denon's refurbs. I think they're the only authorized mechanism to buy Denon's, and they have them constantly. So if you're in a budget crunch, definitely give them a look. I think a lot of our prices came from Amazon and Best Buy, but on this show, we certainly would like to see and hear our listeners go to their local places, see if you can support those. And if you don't have a local place, even if you do, check out Value Electronics. They don't support the show. We're not sponsored by them or anything, but Robert Zone has been a friend of mine personally and Home Theater Forum in general for a long, long time. So
I also just want to point out, of course, the Dayton speakers, they're sold by partsexpress.com.
Oh, I don't know. So do you have any Dayton equipment?
I have some Dayton speakers just at work for music playback.
Okay, and I know that they were primarily known for subwoofers for a while. That's no longer true? They have a full line of speakers?
Oh, they've had speakers. I mean, the ones I have, I bought 15 years ago.
I see. Okay, I'm not super familiar with them. When I was buying budget stuff, it was mostly the Pioneer Andrew Jones, which you can't buy anymore. Or they would have been in my recommendations. And the Energy.
I didn't know those were not available anymore.
At least they're not available on Amazon. I know Andrew Jones has lent his name to Todd Erwin. You might remember who's he building speakers for now?
Monster Cable, or not Mobile Fidelity. Sorry, you didn't ask me, but he's at MoFi.
Okay, that tracks. Anybody?
Sam,
go ahead.
The only other place that I've ever seen those Andrew Jones speakers was Best Buy, and they don't carry them anymore.
Yeah, I think the licensing has run out on them, and I have 3 pairs of the desktops with upfiring, and I would recommend them to anybody if you could get them, but I don't think you can get them anymore. So, John Dirk, what would your upgrade picks look like if you had a couple extra bucks on top of the 1K, or where would you look to spend your upgrade dollars after that?
I think if I were going to upgrade, I would probably go up to the next. I think the 65-inch version of the LG. It was out of range, so I didn't include it. But I would go ahead and get the 65-inch. I think it was only like maybe a couple $100 more.
Gotcha. Todd Erwin?
I think down the road, since I have a 7.1 receiver that does Dolby Atmos. I would either add some rear surrounds or upfiring Atmos speakers or downfiring Atmos speakers, depending on which ones you want to go with.
Outstanding.
Like the SVS, something similar to the SVS. What are they called?
Elevations.
Yeah, because they're on my 5000.
They're part of mine too, or I looked at them at least. How about you, Todd Rice? You got any upgrade picks?
So I don't know specifically, but I know I would have upgraded the television to have a faster refresh rate. The one I had chosen only had 60 hertz, so I'd definitely go up to 120 to help the folks out that like to do the gaming. I know that's important to them. and watching sports, right? A lot of the action stuff to get more true motion.
So I took a completely different path on my upgrade picks. I went very, very low and very, very high. And by very, very low, I mean $25 a month for 24 months. So that's really $500, but it's only $25 now. And that's to get an Xbox Series S game sold with Game Pass. And not a lot of our attention's been paid to gaming, but I personally feel that Game Pass is the best value in gaming right now. I've tried all the different cloud services, and I think they all stink, to be honest with you. Even Xbox's cloud gaming is not ready for prime time. But for that $25 a month, you literally get thousands of games and thousands of hours in gaming. The other thing that I would recommend somebody who's in this position to start looking at last year's C2 series for LG monitors, either 42, 48, or 55. And you can get a 55-inch renewed for just over $1,000 today, and I expect that to go down very rapidly. But the difference between an LED and an OLED, we all know, is literally night and day as far as the black levels go. And somebody had mentioned immersion earlier. Personally, I feel like the gray backgrounds on LEDs drag me out worse than any other visual cues, and I like to have that really, really dark, deep background. So that's where I would spend my money. And again, that's probably 10 times what you guys had in your recommended upgrades, but that's where I would, if I was starting over again, I would do whatever I could to get an OLED to start with and not have to look back and replace that TV at any time soon.
Sam, I've got 2 Vizio QLED, and I get I get pitch black background.
Yeah, I mean, I have a Vizio P Series too, and it's great, but maybe I'm a snob, John. I don't know, but the heart wants what the heart wants, and I find myself not being able to go back from OLED, and I can't. I have the same problem in my own theater in the basement. The blacks on my projector are world class, but still, you look at that versus the sharpness and pure pitch black of OLED, and it's tough. It's tough to juggle the two of them.
Well, there are, it has dimming, and there are sometimes artifacts. I mean, you can see it very clearly at times, which wouldn't happen on OLED.
All right, anybody else want to jump in on anything on the 1K level? I think we beat this to death pretty good, but I'm really, really appreciative that everybody came at it from different angles, and I think we've got some good suggestions. Hopefully that the different voices haven't confused you further, but we've given you some options to think about.
Sam, one other thing, because the I was thinking of a C1, which I think what you were referring to.
I know. I did. No, the 55-inch C2 renewed is just over $1,000. I couldn't even find C1s on the market.
And those should be going on clearance in a couple months as well. I would imagine.
Clearances, refurbs,
another option,
open boxes. I think we all recommend all of them.
Be very careful though with the open box OLED. Make sure it was not a display model.
And are you saying that because of burn-in?
Burn-in and just time.
So Todd, you've probably had more exposure to any of the open box and possible burn-in on OLEDs. What have you seen out there? Because my experience as a home user, as somebody who abuses them with gaming, is that it's not an issue. You disagree?
Oh no, I think the newer OLEDs, I agree with you. What I'm more concerned about is just how many hours that TV's been used. If it's a display model, that's my only concern, and I would say that just about for any TV. Yeah,
I would agree with you on any open box TV. You got to be careful about the hours because they do have a limited life cycle.
Right.
But yeah, so definitely do your homework and don't buy something open box without having it turned on if you can avoid it. I agree with that. I think that's smart.
Right. And also if you're also if you can't find any of the C2s that are open box or whatever, take a look at the B series.
That's a
They're a little-
that's a great
they're a little
suggestion. I haven't
They're
really.
a little dimmer. They're a little dimmer than the C series.
Mhm.
Not quite as bright as the C series, but you're still getting the true blacks on those.
That's great. I don't have any exposure to it. Haven't seen any of them even in the stores. I can't tell you how many times I've been to a store in the last year to have even seen one. So that's good recommendation.
You won't find a B series in a store usually.
Oh no, they're special order only.
No, they're readily available online, but I have never seen them on a showroom. But another good thing about the B series is it is 120 hertz native display.
Yeah, you can't beat the LGs for the gaming, and for that 120 hertz, it really makes a difference. One other suggestion, nobody's mentioned it, but no matter what level you're looking at a TV, definitely check out Costco as well, because they have a bunch of them hung up, and you can go look at them head to head the same way that you can at Best Buy. I wouldn't tell anybody to go window shopping at Costco, but buy at Value Electronics. But I know people who've done it.
I should have mentioned my TV selection was a Costco TV.
Gotcha. And the nice thing about Costco is you can buy a 5-year warranty for any TV. At least you used to be able to. I think you still can. So ask about that. Even if you didn't buy it there, you can buy the 5-year warranty. And they'll support it with their own service center. It's a third party, and I know people have had good luck with it. So, if you are worried about burn-in, the 5-year warranty is like $100, $200, something like that, and it's worth that peace of mind. I don't recommend it, but if your lizard brain is screaming at you, what happens if I get burn-in in 3 years? My answer is put that $100 towards the next TV in 3 years, but not everybody thinks the way that I do, for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect a warranty to cover that. I would think they would call that misuse and deny it.
Yep. That's a possibility.
The only extended warranty that I know of that covers burn-in is Best Buy's.
All right, good plug there, Todd.
I know. Yeah. But the other thing about Costco is you get 1 extra year of manufacturer's warranty.
Good to know. Did not remember that. Cool. Any other words on the 1K level? All right. Hearing no objections, we'll move on to the 5K level. Who wants to jump in first here?
I'll go.
All right. Jump in, sir.
All right. I'm going to start off with a closeout Denon receiver, the AVR X4700H, which the 4800 is out and it's $2,500. The 4700 on closeout is $1,000 less, $1,499. Right now you can get that from Denon or Crutchfield, or you can get it through Amazon, and I'm not promoting. I just realized I'm sounding like an ad. You can get it through Amazon from Listen Up, which is a very reputable, long-standing audio retailer here in Colorado. Oddly, you can get it from Listen Up through Amazon, but you can't get it from Listen Up on the Listen Up website. So figure that out. So that's $1,500. Now that receiver has 9 channels of amplification built in, and it processes 11 channels. So you can, if you add a 2-channel amp, you can go with the full 7x4 Atmos setup. I'm going to point out I'm just doing a 5.1. In fact, all of mine, this one is just going to be a 5.1 to give room to get the best quality I can get for the $5,000, and then if somebody wants to upgrade it, then they can.
That's perfectly fair.
So I made a couple. The prices changed. I double checked them. I upgraded the disc player from the Panasonic 150 to the 420 because last week the 150 was on sale, and now it's not. The 420 is on sale. Where I saw it, you can get it for $218, and I think it probably shows where my priorities are. That I'm spending a whopping 12% of the total budget on video.
Wow. Yeah,
and
that does.
88% on audio. So I chose a 55-inch TCL 6 series, which is a QLED mini LED that it's not big, but it's going to give you really an outstanding picture, for $600. It's just a real bargain. Up in the front, I've got probably no big surprise, a pair of ELAC Unify 2, the UF52, which is their floor standing speaker in the Unify version 2 line, and then the matching center, the UC52. Right now, a pair of the UF52s is $1,050, and the center is about $339. I couldn't fit the Unify 2 bookshelf speakers for surround into the budget, but you can still get the original Unify for about half price. A pair of those is $331, so that would be your surround. And then for subwoofers, Rail is having a closeout on the HT1205 version 1 for $450. So I've got a pair of those at $898. Gets me to $49.35.
Very cool. John, how difficult was it for you to not recommend separates at this price level?
It's not possible to do separates at this price range.
Yeah,
I don't think.
There's no combination that would work, you don't think?
Well, Emotiva has, and I think maybe Outlaw both have Outlaw used to have a sub $1,000 processor. Emotiva, I can't remember. I think it's 1,000, maybe it's a little bit less. It was not difficult at all for me to go with a receiver. For one thing, this receiver, like it says, has 11 channels of processing, and it has full preamp outputs. So you always have the option of just running it as a processor.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, it's got the Odyssey. You can choose to use it or not. I know we've had some guests on the show who recommend against it, but I personally run it for all my systems, and the in-command system, and especially at that level, it's got some pretty good processing in there to help at least get you a baseline, and then you can go from there on your own.
That is a serious, right now for a mid-level receiver, that closeout of the 4,700 for $1,500 to me, if anybody's looking for a, mid-ish higher level receiver, that just, to me, that's a no-brainer. Like I said, the 4,800 is $1,000 more.
Yeah. Does that have any HDMI 2.1s in it?
That's the one limitation. I
Yeah.
think it just has one.
Okay.
8K
4K 120
VRR
Yeah.
compatible, but I don't know if a lot of people have more than one. I don't know. I don't
Gamers, yeah. So if you're a gamer and you want to run both a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox, you need something with two.
Yeah, that is a limitation on it. I think the 4,800, that all the inputs are 8K compatible.
Gotcha. No, that's a serious system. How about you, John Dirk? You got a retort to that, because you and John Rice tend to think along the same lines. What do you got for us?
He doesn't need an insult like that.
No, I agree with John. I mean, the one thing that would probably allow it would be if you would look at the secondary market. But I'm always surprised at how often people come to the forum asking for budget suggestions, and then we bring that up, and it's just completely ignored. I mean, I always look at secondary markets for anything I buy. So I don't know why there's so much resistance to it. But outside of that, I don't think you would be able to get into separates at that price point either.
Yeah, I think that's a terrific suggestion. And I think that's appropriate literally for all of our, every budget. But again, it's a little bit luck of the draw too, right? So you can't count on, finding something in your area, especially if you're, say out in the Midwest or the center of the country, whereas you might be able to more like I am, north of Baltimore and having, just the density of population to be able to pull from. But yeah, that's a good suggestion. What's your 5K system look like?
So for the 5K system, I went with a brand that I use for my Atmos speakers even today, and that is RSL or Roger Sound Labs. They've got a nice 5.1 system, the CG23M, and it includes one of their speed woofers. I think they've got the they call it the Mark II now, but it's a 10-inch subwoofer, and we I know we're not talking about rooms, but I always kind of picture that when I do my planning. So I figured this one would be in a a medium-sized room, so we want a discrete sub. So these speakers are the LCRs all match, and then it's got a couple of smaller satellites for the surrounds. Kind of like contrary to what John is doing, and I would do that in my when we get to the next category, I do that too. But for this one, I kind of concentrated on video, so that's where the bulk of my budget will go. But getting ahead of myself. For the receiver, I chose the step down model of the one John recommended, which is the Denon AVR X2700H, and it's a 7.2 Atmos capable system. Available at Crutchfield right now for $7.99. And then I put the bulk of my budget into video because I wanted to get a projector in at this price point. So I chose the WeMax Nova ultra short throw laser projector, and it comes with a 100% ALR screen, and it's got Android TV built in for the apps.
I think I requested a review unit on that one and hasn't shown up yet.
Yeah, you can't. I cheated again because they're in short supply, but they're out there.
Cool. Have you seen one in person yet?
No.
Yeah, I know like AVS is full of people testing them out and seems to be getting good results. So more to follow on that for sure.
Yep.
Is that everything in your kit? And what was your total price?
Total was $4,647 on this one.
Oh, you saved us $400. You're a hero.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, cool. How about you, Todd Rice? What do you got? Because I think this is above the budget you spent for yours, right?
Above the budget I spent
of your personal one, your personal theater.
No, it's almost exactly the same system I have at the house here now.
Okay.
With the exception of, it's almost a year later, so I can upgrade the television from what I have on the wall right now. What I have at home right now is a C1 OLED, but what I was able to find at Costco was an LG 77-inch OLED C2. Of course, it's got all the bells and whistles, the 4K UHD, and a really nice feature. One of the things, last time I was on the show, I talked about, it's got a thing they call it the magic remote. And I would agree, it is a magic remote. One of my goals was to cut down on the number of remote controls it took to, turn the television on, turn the cable box on, turn this on, turn that on. And what I'll say is I could use the magic remote and a magic remote only to run everything, but I'm still tied to a cable box, and the graphic user interface on the cable box and setting up recordings like that. I still use it for that, but I could use that magic remote for everything. So I got this at Costco. It's $2,799.99. And I looked at what I bought last year at Costco, the C1, and that was a 77-inch. And the C2 is only $200 more. So I broke one of your cardinal rules, Sam, of buy it and never look back.
Don't look at the next year's reviews.
I look back now, yep. Right? And for $200 more, I could have got the next generation. But I couldn't wait. I want to get the television up.
Your setup is beautiful, Todd. I will tell people who have not been fortunate enough to be there. for somebody
Yeah.
who's not an addict to forums the way that we are, trying to squeeze every little bit out of it, I think you had a particularly good vision to go streaming and digital only with, with the side of the cable put into it, and you made it your own. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and so the sound that I tie into that is I have the premium immersive set with the ARC from Sonos, and that is on sale right now, $100 off at $1,946. That is the setup with it uses the ARC as the sound bar, the sub Generation 3 for the wireless subwoofer, and two 1SL speakers for the rear. And the setup on the Sonos was very easy. You use an app on your phone. You turn the sound bar on. Tap it with your phone. It connects, and then it gives you directions, right? Then you turn on the sub, wave your phone over it, take it to the rear speakers, wave your phone over it, and it's got an app to test around the room to set up your sound field, and it adjusts over time. You occasionally get software updates. I've only had one problem with it now in about, what was it, 9 months I've had it set up, where I had to disconnect it from Wi-Fi and turn it back on. There's only one wire from the soundbar into the television, and the rear speakers, you do have to plug them in for power, but they're completely wireless. Everything is completely wireless except except for that one wire. Let me go back to the television a little bit. The television is a big upgrade too, right? Because it's got 4 HDMI inputs, and they are all 2.1 inputs. And when I back up a little bit, originally, Sam, when you came over, I had the sound bar and everything set up to like what, a 22-inch Insignia television.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we played. I played a couple of things, right? Master and Commander, which is one of your favorites.
Sure,
we
yeah.
had some go-to scenes, and the Dolby Atmos worked really well on that, right? When they had the explosions and some guys were below deck and it sounded like they were running over your head.
Yep.
It was like a century jump for me to have that Atmos to work in that kind of way. I'd never experienced that before, and my girlfriend, my daughter's boyfriend came over, and he was watching that, and I showed him the scene from No Time to Die when they're in the little town square, and the church bells seem to be moving around
yeah.
their head.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what I was saying. Even though we had that little 22-inch television set up, Ruben said, "Wow," he says, "I forgot I was watching this on a little set because the sound was so good, right? The sound is what pulls you in, and even on a decent picture, with a little screen, if you got good sound,
Yep.
I think that compensates for a lot. One thing I would change from when I gave you my notes, when you mentioned it, right, the Apple TV box is only about $100. Is that what you said earlier?
109.
109, because let's see, my total so far is $4,745.99, and I would add the Apple TV box. Streaming, and here's why: streaming with the app is great on the television, except when you're going through an app like that, even in the iTunes library, you can't see the extras. And part of movies that I really like, I like to see the extras that go along with that. So I do have an Apple TV box, but it's on my set in the basement. So if I want to watch the extras, I have to go down there now. I'm almost at the point where I'm ready to bring the Apple TV box upstairs and hook it up just so I can watch extras at my leisure on the couch.
All right.
But that's my $5,000 system.
Well, I have a 3-word recommendation for you, Todd, and that is treat yourself. Because I too pick and choose the extras that I dig into. And I watched a movie today that I wish that I could have pulled the extras from. It was on Amazon Prime, no extras. And so when you dig something, you definitely want to check it out. So I think that's worth $100 out of a $5,000 Bill.
Yeah, and I could have added that, and I'd be at what? I'd be at
4,800. Yeah.
8 and change. Yeah.
Did somebody have something to add to that?
So I was just gonna. I mean, that in any system, especially if it's down to $110, the Apple TV is an easy one to justify.
You know, the dumb thing is that for like 2 or 3 years, people were poo-pooing Apple. Oh, it's so expensive. Oh, why do you need that? They made it a loss leader, right? I mean, they can't be making a whole lot of money at $110, but so many people are getting Apple TV Plus today, and that just keeps getting better. And all the apps, I don't care where they're from, they're the best version of the apps 99% of the time. And I know Erwin tracks this better than anybody, and he can dispute me if he likes. But my experience has been, if it's on the Apple ecosystem, it's going to have the widest exposure, and the manufacturers are trying to put the best version out there on that.
Well, and it just works.
Yep. Yeah, and those are dirty words to technophiles, but for the most part, they're true. Cool. Anything else to add to your system, Todd?
No, that's it for me. Thanks.
Okay. How about you, Todd? Erwin?
Well, let's see. For the TV, I went with an LG C2 65-inch.
Me too.
Which is $1,700.
Yep.
And I'm just going to go down the list that I have here, even though I'm kind of going all over the place. For my media player, I have 2 media players. So I have the Panasonic DP UB820K 4K Blu-ray player that has that's $500, and that's a reliable 4K Blu-ray player with auto-sensing Dolby Vision. Because I currently have the Sony X800 M2, which you have to toggle, which is a pain in the butt.
That does sound like a pain.
And then I'm also going with the 64 gig Apple TV 4K.
Brilliant. What sound?
What?
What sound system?
That's what I was going to do next. So for the receiver, I'm going with the Denon AVR X1700H. It's 7.2, $700 at Best Buy. Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, decent wattage on it. And then for the speakers, I'm going with the Monolith Audition. I'm going with the T4 Towers for the left, right, and rear, and not rear. No, I'm sorry, left, right, and surrounds. So I'm getting 4 of those. That's $650, and those are mono priced, by the way. And then I'm going with the matching center, the C4 Audition C4 center, which is $105. And then I'm going with an SVS SB100 Pro sub for $600.
Nice.
And then a pair of the Prime Elevation speakers for Atmos.
Oh, that's brilliant. And what size is that sub? Do you know? Is that a 8-inch sub or is it bigger? What size is that sub? Is it an 8-inch sub or is it bigger than that?
It's 12, isn't it?
I'd have to pull up the specs on that.
I didn't think they got into 12 until like the 1000 series, no?
The sealed, I think, is 12.
What's the price on it?
$600.
Okay, cool.
For the SB1000 that I'm going with. It's a 13-inch cabinet.
All right. And what was your total?
And my grand total was $4,883.22.
Brilliant.
$4,883.22.
Awesome. All right, I think that leaves me, and I am going to hit a lot of things that were said already and a couple little twists. On the receiver front, I'm going with the Denon 3800 receiver. It's a model I have myself. It's $1,700 retail. Dolby Atmos, 7.1.2, I think, out of the box, and I think it can be expanded past that. I'm going to pair that with just the SVS Prime Satellite 5.1, and I'll tell you why. I have experience with it, and I have one in my bedroom, and it's brilliant. Can be expanded to 7.1 or 7.1.2 or 0.4 pretty readily. It's got a nice little sub along with it, And if you wanted to add a bigger sub, say the SVS SB2000 for $900 on top of that, it all matches up very, very well. I chose the LG C2 65 inch for $1,700, and I'm going to say that's roughly 30% of my budget right there. It's just in the TV. And I think if you were to buy an LG C2 65 inch, you would be absolutely blown away with that and happy with that, unless you were an absolute pixel peeper for the next 5 years. That is a 5+ year TV for 99% of the population out there. And I beat the budget here on this one. I came in at $51.56, and you could definitely get it to under $2,000 if you were to, say, buy the SVS set on their President's Day sale, which is going on today. I didn't check the updated prices, but I know that they do President's Day and they do 4th of July sales. And I have 2.5 sets of SVS different gear throughout my house, and I recommend everything that they make up and down the lines. And as a media player, I'm going out in left field and selecting the Xbox Series X, and I will note that that has every app that you could want on it, every game other than the PlayStation exclusives has it available to it, Game Pass, and it has a built-in 4K UHD disc drive that you can watch movies on. You got to control it with a controller and not a remote, although you can add a remote if you wanted to, and all that for $5,000. I think that's a system that almost anybody could be very, very proud of. Who wants to talk about their upgrade recommendations? Who wants to jump in on that?
Well, I went first. I guess I can do the upgrades.
Sure, go for it.
There's really just a couple upgrades on mine. You could, on the surround speakers, you could upgrade them from the Unified version 1 to the version 2, add another pair for 7.1. Like I said, I wasn't really looking into going beyond 7.1 on any of my systems, actually. Upgrade on the sub from the REL, a really good one right now. Instead of the pair of the RELs, SVS has brought back the non-pro SB2000. You can get it; they're $500 each, so you can get a pair for $1,000. And I'll tell you what, a pair of SB2000s would be, for a lot of people, would be a killer setup. It's only $100 more than the pair of RELs.
Nice.
And that's actually the only upgrades I have.
Okay. How about you, John Dirk?
For this system, the only thing I would upgrade would be I would throw in a second sub, a second speed woofer.
Nice. Okay. Todd, Erwin?
Okay. For me, I would maybe upgrade the speakers to maybe up to the T5s or go up to the Monolith Encore series.
I meant to ask you, do you have any of the monoprice speaker systems? Have you auditioned?
I did review the Monolith Encores.
Okay.
Those were I cried when I returned them.
It's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah. I wasn't that thrilled with their 5.1 THX system, but that may have just been me.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I mean, or just upgrade all the speakers to something from SVS.
Nice.
Not really anything anywhere else to really upgrade. Maybe go up to the 77-inch OLED. Yeah,
that was one of my recommendations too. But I mean, the difference between a $1,700 and $2,500 TV gets pricey really, really quick there.
Yeah, I was looking to change that out, and I was like, then I saw the price. I was like, no.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, I think, or maybe go with the next level up on the Denon receiver. Yep.
They're nice.
Future upgrades would be upgrading the speakers to something a little better.
The nice thing about the Denons is that, you know, the UI is the same for all of them. That they add very, very reasonable or you know, helpful upgrades in addition to just the power and wattage in those things. And I know the Johns are probably squirming at my use of power, and that's that term because I know we talked about power in the past, but the output on them. But yeah, I definitely agree. Up, going up into a new receiver category, it makes sense, especially if you're going to drive them hard. Anything else?
No, other than I think you and I think, are very brand loyal when it comes to Denon,
Yes.
and I think LG as well for displays. And one thing I always tell people is, and maybe I'm wrong, but this is what I've always been taught, is that the X series from Denon usually has a little better processors than the S series.
Better processing and more beef in their both the chassis and the components within it, for sure.
Yeah, and usually a little better Odyssey version as well.
Yep, for sure. Cool. Todd Rice, what upgrades would you choose, and would you do it in your own system since you're pretty much in this ballpark with yours?
Yeah, so somebody, we've got so many guys, I don't know who mentioned it, but whoever said the second sub, I thought, ooh, second sub would be nice. And then
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now, it's another $750 for me to add a sub to the system that I have right now. But
and you have to stay in the Sonos line to do that, right? There's no
yeah, because it would all tie together.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing with Sonos. You remember at one point homes had like speakers wired in every room. Some of the better luxury homes.
I mean, mine does right now.
Yeah.
I have the whole home stereo. Yeah.
Yeah, with the Sonos, right? You can buy, as you add on, you can buy the One SL, the Roam, and they all connect together, and you can have music throughout your whole house.
Yep.
Or just the rooms you want to have them in, and you can assign a speaker to each room and turn it on and off with your app. So,
Yep.
But I think if I was gonna upgrade, it would be the second sub.
Cool. All right, Todd, Erwin had mentioned my brand loyalty, and I will tell you, I am loyal to Denon through and through. I have not found another brand that fits me as well as Denon does and I'm running 3 different rooms of home theaters. It's the dumbest thing ever for a single guy to have, multiple home theaters, but it is what it is, and I love my Denons for it. Todd also suggested that I might be brand loyal to LG, and I don't know about that. I love the performance of the LG OLEDs. I love their pricing compared to their competitors. I am not a fan of the Magic Remote like Todd Rice is. If there was one thing that I could change about the LG C and G series, it would be to get rid of that and go to a standard remote, or maybe at least a Bluetooth enabled remote that does things without waggling it all around. So I know some people love it and some people hate it, and I wouldn't say I hate it, but it's never enhanced the experience for me.
Well, Sam, I know what you're talking about. I don't care for that cursor that kind of jumps all over the place, but yeah, that Magic Remote, it works the Sonos speaker, the cable box. I mean, it just for that I can forgive the that weird cursor mouse thing that it has.
Gotcha. No, that's truly valid. And I would not have built my theater out the way that you did, but I love everything about it and how it fits your vision and how you've made it your own, and you've made it, you can make it do anything that you want it to do when you want it to do it with 1 or 2 remotes, and where I've got 7 remotes floating around, and God help anybody that has to run it besides me. For my own upgrades, I would definitely add 2 more SVS Prime satellite speakers, which would add another $350. But as a budget change to that, if I'm going to 5.2, I might choose the Sony Bounce Atmos speakers, which are a true bargain at $123. I do have them in my own living room, and they, as John noted, the processing is John Rice noted, the processing is a big part of Atmos, but adding those extra speakers, putting the sound up in the air helps a lot too. If I was gonna choose any of my recommended upgrades, it would be to move to an SVS SB2000 Pro subwoofer. That's $900, and I think the jump in size would be well worth it. I think that's it. Anybody have anything else they want to say about the mid tier or the bang for the buck 5K? All right, so that brings us to the big granddaddy, the unlimited category. And I think we all had a pretty similar view of what this meant, where we went unlimited but within reason. And then we went beyond that too. So who wants to start with that?
Hey, Sam, this is Todd Rice.
Yep.
So I'm setting this round out.
Right.
The problem I had, right, like a lot of the other guys here, they're kind of in the industry. So I had trouble, like when I'm looking at higher end stuff, finding pricing. Everything would kind of lead me to connect with a dealer and installer type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the example I'll give, the streaming device I would have used is the Kaleidoscape.
Oh, okay.
And I know it's pricey. And when you had somebody from Kaleidoscape on a few months ago, I could dig up some prices. Mm-hmm. And I think the one I was looking at was like 25 grand or something.
Yep.
Their streaming device. But now it's all connect with a dealer. So and I was telling you earlier, it's kind of like if I have more than 2 or 3 options, I start getting locked up. My brain, I have a difficulty making a choice. So I'm going to set out in this round and just enjoy the information that I receive from the other 3 guys. Thanks.
Todd, I'm so glad that you said that. And I think you're going to be representing a huge portion of this audience. I noted that you're kind of a lurker at Home Theater Forum. And just like any forum, Home Theater Forum has as many or more lurkers than it does active posters. And, trying to follow along any enthusiast forum can be tough. There's a whole different language and people are, have inside baseball and history and stuff like that. So that's totally fair. You built basically your dream theater for the price that you wanted to spend. So kudos to you and thank you for helping us navigate that and what somebody who's not completely crazy the way we are for home theater might do it and do it right. So that's great.
Hey, so I do have one question, Sam.
Yeah.
For everybody else here, if they know like an average price of the equipment in, just the movie theater we go to the Cinemark or the AMC, what would be the average cost of the amount of the equipment just in one theater, right?
I wouldn't hazard a guess. I know the laser projectors are like 250 grand. So how many tickets does it take to recoup that? I don't know. John Rice, you got an idea on any of this? You might have the closest, or John Phillips might have some idea.
I really have no idea. I couldn't. I mean, I'm sure it varies a lot.
Yeah. The difference between what they call a shoebox theater that's got 5.1 and something that's fully Atmos kitted is probably a 50 times multiplier on something like that. So I don't know. It's in the tens of thousands of dollars at a minimum, though. John,
I think it's closer to hundreds of thousands.
Probably. No, I've been for a shoebox theater, probably not. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I go to premium theaters now. I go to see IMAX and Dolby Cinema, and I know that those are easily in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But your local Cinema 10, do each of those cost 15 grand? I don't know. Todd, Erwin, you want to go with your grand vision?
Oh, sure. But to piggyback on what you just said, though, I think you could probably get a really good deal on a cinema projector right now.
Why do you say that?
Well, with all the Regals that are shutting down right now.
Oh, I hadn't heard about that. Did they go out of business?
The bankruptcy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know Kevin Smith just bought Todd Rice in my local home theater. So not home theater, but local theater, the Atlantic Cinema Twin is now the Smod Castle. So more like that, please.
Yeah, somebody bought about a year ago. Somebody bought the old Quonset hut theater here in town, but hasn't done anything with it. But anyway, so I was torn on this one because I was going back and forth a couple times. Did I want to go with projector? Did I want to go with a display? Because there are some 90-inch and bigger displays out there. And then of course LG just did their panels for shoebox theaters that they just announced, but with no pricing, of course. But I ended up going with the projector, and it's probably, I'm going to guess, it's going to be very similar to what everyone else chose if they went projector. So I went with the JVC DLA RS 4500K native 4K projector for $25,000, which has HDR10 and auto tone mapping and frame adapt on that, and it's a laser projector. And then matching that with this is where I'm like with Todd Rice. I don't know what to do about screens, so I went with an Elite Screens Pro Frame thin 135-inch screen, which has a 180-degree view and a screen gain of 1.1.
And what's the price on the screen?
It was $1,650.
Not bad.
And then for audio, I'm going with a Denon AVR X 6700H 11.2 receiver for $3,300. And then I'm going with a set of SVS Ultras, 2 towers in the front and an Ultra center, and surrounds, and then 2 additional surrounds. And then pairing that with a pair of SB16 Ultra subs.
Very nice. And have you?
And then, well, no,
go ahead.
And then for Atmos, 2 pair of the Bowers and Wilkins CCM 682 in ceilings.
Nice. Okay. Is that everything?
No. Now for media, I'm going with the Panasonic DB UB820 for $500. But I do want to be able to listen to my SACDs and DVD audio discs. So I'm going to add a second 4K Blu-ray player. It's the Sony UBP X800M2, which I'm only going to use to play SACDs and DVD audios, because I don't want to bother switching to Dolby Vision on that. For streaming, I'm going to go with the Apple TV 4K 64 gig. And that was going to set me back $44,407.87.
And you still can't game on it, Todd.
I'm not a gamer. I still have a PS3 that I play every once in a while.
All right, that's fair. Have you seen this projector?
No, I have not, but I've heard all kinds of good things about it.
I've been in the market for one of these 3 JVC projectors since they came out. I actually had one pre-ordered, and other priorities came up, let's put it that way. And I still have not been invited to anybody's house to see one of these in person. We do have one down in Towson that I could go take a look at. I haven't done that yet. Maybe I'll do that next weekend I've got free. But that's the problem with these very expensive projectors, is finding one to see in the wild before you lay your money down is very, very tough. What about the speakers that you've recommended? Have you heard those?
Not those specific ones, but I've heard SVS before. I think
they're upgraded versions of the
Theater
ones.
Forum events.
Yeah. So they're upgraded versions of ones you've either heard or participated in events with. Then.
Right, because I remember they sponsored the last trip to Vegas.
Right. And if you're listening, new home theater forum owners, we would love a new home theater forum meet in Vegas or California. If you were to do a cherry on top, Todd, anything you would add to any of this?
Oh, I'll make you happy. A PS5 or Xbox.
Okay, very good. Okay, let's kick it over to John Phillips.
Okay, this one's going to take a while.
All right, we're here. We're here for it.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. So I'll start with audio for the speakers. I went with Legacy Audio's V system. I own their Focus SEs, and they are just exquisite in every way. The V system is a few steps up from that. It's an 8-driver system with it's got a 4-channel DSP crossover. It's got dual 4-inch AMT ribbons, dual 6-inch mids, and dual 12-inch bass drivers built in. It sells for $55,000, and that includes the outboard wavelet processor.
And those are active, right?
Yeah,
Can you tell our
Yeah.
listeners what that means? That they're self-powered?
yeah. The bass drivers have built-in amplification, and they also have active crossovers, which is what John's talking about. The outboard processor.
So they need their own individual plug then, right?
Yes.
Correct. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then for the sensor, I chose the same sensor I currently have, which is the Legacy Audio Marquee XT. It's got two 12-inch bass drivers, a 8-inch mid driver, and a 4-inch AMT ribbon. That's obviously designed to match with the Focus SEs I also run. And for the surrounds, I went with their Studio HD line ×2. And then let's see, for Atmos, I switched over because Legacy doesn't do any in-ceiling speakers. So I went with the KEF C1200 at $999 each ×4.
Sweet.
And go ahead.
No, sweet. I didn't look at KEF. I have a number of KEF products. I didn't think to check them out for ceiling speakers.
Yeah, if I were replacing mine, I would go with these. I went to kind of the budget route when I installed mine, but if I were replacing them, I'd go with these. Let's see. I think Todd Erwin said dual SVS SB16 Ultras. Even though this system really would not need subs, since we're talking unlimited, I would add dual SB16 Ultras. I have the SB4000s, and they are just amazing. So I would go ahead and add those, and that would be for the pair $4,399. Let's see, for amplification, I have a stereo Class D amp for my two fronts by D-Sonic, which is a great boutique amplifier manufacturer. For this system, I would go with their M3A 3200, which is a 5-channel amplifier. And that one will give you 400 watts into 8 ohms for each of those channels. And then for the remaining channels, their M3A 4400, which is an 11-channel amplifier. And that one, well, still 11 by 400, so 400 watts for every channel. And I think the M3A 3200 is more than 400 watts. I think that's 800 watts a channel, and that's for the front stage. And then for the pre-pro in this system, I would go with the Trinov Altitude 16, which is if you're familiar with Trinov, they make just a very unique product that unfortunately sells for $20,000, which is why I don't have one.
I'm with you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful machine though. And then for the video, I would again, I think Todd, when he called it by the RS designation, but I believe, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that's the JVC NZ8. It may be the 9. Oh, I think you may have been talking about the 9, but the NZ8 is as much money as I would spend. Those are about $15,000.
Yeah, the price I have listed for the NZ9 was $26,000. I think that's what Todd was talking about. They have different model numbers for Europe and America, and I think the America goes by the NZ9 designation, right?
Yeah, it's America. Well, it's NZ is like kind of like Epson does. It's the NZ is the consumer kind of channel, and then RS is the integrator channel.
Oh, okay, yeah. Screw those integrators. I'm putting it in myself.
Exactly.
No. We certainly have had integrators on the show, and they do amazing work. But I think
they do.
But I think their customer is not the typical home theater forum member who wants to do it themselves.
Yeah, I agree. And for the screen, go ahead.
Oh, Crutchfield does have the RS 4500 available to order on their website.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Yeah, sometimes you can get them that way, and it's kind of weird how that works because sometimes some manufacturers are pretty strict about that. But for the screen, I would, even though we're talking unlimited, I would go with a silver ticket STR Series 6. It's this particular one is 2.35 to 1 format, 158 inches, but it's only $829. I've got the 135-inch version of it in my theater, and it's been a great performer. I don't think you need to spend any more than that. And then I would round it out with a Panasonic 9000 UHD player, and those are, I think, about $900. And that would clock me in for the total at about $120,000 and 664. So.
Nice. I really appreciate you embracing the full unlimited budget, John. If you were to do it, about how, if you had the money, you would buy each of those things individually, or do you think you'd better sense would prevail, or better budget would prevail over it?
Well, wife would prevail. Otherwise, I'd have already done it, Sam.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we have members that can and do spend that kind of money on things. And it would be tough for me to put $125,000 into anything, and that's from the guy that just bought an $80,000 truck. So, yeah.
Yeah. Over time, though, I actually I wish I had bought some of these things initially instead of going through all the iterations that cost me so much money as I was kind of, learning.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't think I'd ever spend the money on the Trenov. That's just more than I want to spend.
Gotcha.
And I'm happy with the speakers I have. I don't think I need to spend $55,000 on speakers either.
All right. John Rice, I'm going to let you take us home, which means I'm going to jump in with mine now. And I think my vision of the unlimited is kind of a bang for buck unlimited. And so my budget turns out to have been a quarter of what John Phillips came up with, but I could go up to half if I got all my upgrades. So the way I punched it out was for an LG G3 83-inch, which, if we're looking at what 2022 prices were for the G2 83-inch, is somewhere around $6,000. And so you could certainly go up to the 97-inch, which is $25,000, but that's going to be a G2. I paired that with, on the sound side, a Denon 8500 receiver or its replacement. If you're in the market for a Denon 8500, they're getting a little long in the tooth, and you might hold off for another 6-8 months to see what comes out. That's the next generation of that technology. But that's I think it's a 14-channel receiver, and that's about as advanced as you can go without going to complete separates. But it's got the the highest level of Odyssey. It will do. I'm not sure if that model will do Dirac or not. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sure somebody will correct me.
Pretty sure that's before Denon adopted Dirac,
Yeah,
or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, so the next generation will almost assuredly have that in there. And I'm going to pair that with 2 times the Paradigm Founder 100 mains. And I have the Paradigm Signatures, which are about a quarter of the price of those. I'm going to pair that with 4 Paradigm Founder 40Bs for the rears and surrounds. I'm going to add a Paradigm Founder 90C center. And for the ceiling, I probably would have gone with Kef, but the ones that I had recommended to me at this kind of budget were the Bose Virtually Invisible 791 speakers. And you can poo-poo Bose all you want, but they do make some good speakers in the professional line. And I believe that those would be very good. I couldn't even tell you what I've got in my own theater, but I know they were not Paradigms, and they match up just fine. So I'm not really worried about timbre matching ceiling speakers with the Atmos stuff, but you could probably spend tens of thousands of dollars trying to match that up. On the subwoofer front, I'm basically doubling what I've got now to go to a Sioux Research VTF 15H Mark II dual drive, which is two 15-inch subs. I'm just for the hell of it going to throw in a Panasonic 820 UHD player. I'm going to keep my Apple TV. I'm going to have an Xbox Series X with Game Pass Unlimited and a PlayStation 5. And that rounds up to $28,689. And if I was going to go even higher, I too would pick out the JVC NZ9 for $26,000 and pair that with the quote that I got for my own theater for a Stewart wall screen 130-inch, which came at $4,100 installed. So that would be another $30,000 on top of that. And I'd probably keep the G2 and just put the screen on a drop down in front of it. So that's everything I've got. What do you got for us, John Rice?
Well, I guess my idea of unlimited was a little different.
Oh, that's what
I'll start out.
I was.
Can we have a drum roll before John Rice starts?
Oh, let's see. How about this? Hang on 1 second. Hang on, let me cue this up for us. Are you ready?
All right.
No. How about this?
No.
You son of a bitch.
There we go. Take
All
us
right,
home,
well,
John.
I'm not, you guys probably all know that I'm not really clued in all that much to displays and monitors. So I just looked up what's the biggest OLED. And so at $25,000, I have an option of either a 97, you already mentioned it, 97, the LG 97-inch G2 or an 88-inch Z2 8K. I would go with the 97 because I don't foresee ever in the foreseeable future needing 8K since I don't do gaming. But the idea of, a 100-inch OLED TV to me sounds pretty spectacular.
Concur.
So audio, I'm going to start with, this is actually something, the Anthem AVM 90 surround preamp, which is something I would buy because it's something I plan on buying once I can, swallow the idea of the $7,500 for it. I'm going to work around a little bit here. Subwoofers, the Seaton Sound Submersive HP Plus, which is I think it's 15-inch dual opposing drivers, with the drivers on opposing sides, and they have a neat feature where you can it has such a massive amp in it that can drive such low impedance that you can get another passive one, and so you basically have two subwoofers. There are 4 drivers that are all powered by the amp in one of them, in the powered amp. Does that make sense? So yes, I get 2 pairs of those.
Yeah. So you got one power cord going to 2 subs.
Yeah, there's a power cord and a signal going into one sub and its amp, and then its amp has a cable that will connect to an unpowered duplicate amp. So the amplifier in the one sub powers both subs. So I get 2 of those pairs because I am, thanks to Dave Upton, I am completely sold on dual subs. You guys mentioned the SVS SB16 Ultra, which I've had a pair of those for about a year and a half, and it is heaven. So anyway, that's 6, 7, 8, 9, almost 95, 9,400, 9,300 for 2 pairs of those amps. Like I said, the LG is 25,000. The Anthem preamp is 7,500, and then My priority is always music. I want just like the greatest music playback. And you did say this was unlimited. And if I won the lottery and bought a house to go with it, I absolutely would buy these speakers. And
Okay.
that is, I'm going to base it in the left and right with a pair of Focal Grand Utopias, which are a cool 140,000. And yes, folks, that is each.
Are those the ones that look like a Nautilus, or am I thinking of something else?
No, they're, I don't know if you know Wilson audio, they look like big Wilsons. It's a enormous, about 7 foot tall 4-way speaker.
Oh, I think I did see that at a New York speaker show once. Yeah, those are pretty heavy duty.
And so, yeah, so just those speakers, I blew y'all out of the water. That's 280,000 just for those two speakers. And then to finish the surround, I'm going with they have the Focal Viva Utopia, which is a speaker that can be, or the mid-range, and it's a 3-way speaker, and the mid-range and tweeter section rotates so that you can orient them horizontally for a center or vertically for surrounds. And I'm actually going to get, again, I'm just doing a 7.1 setup. I'm actually going to get 2 of them in the center and orient them vertically above and below the TV to create an image of a center that comes from the center of the TV.
I love it, John.
If that makes sense.
100%. Yeah. I get it.
It's such a big TV. I don't want a speaker just, I don't want the sound coming from above it or below it, right?
Right, sure.
So this would create the illusion of it, the center coming from the center of the TV. And so there's 4 surrounds and 2 centers. And so that's a whopping 108,000 for those 6 speakers. And yeah, I swear, if I won the lottery, I have been hopelessly single for 20 years now, which, so I get the system I want.
Right. You don't have to ask for permission, right?
Right.
Yep.
On a player, well, obvious, I didn't even put it in here, but I just by default, I'd get an Apple 4K TV, Apple TV 4K. For a disc player, I would probably go with the Revon X200, which is a high-end 4K player. It plays SACD, just a good, it's sort of one of the heirs to the top of the line Oppos that aren't around anymore. Let's see, what do we have? Okay, I did the subs. And I'm gonna show my love for Emotiva amps. Even though I've got these almost $400,000 in speakers, I'm gonna get the amps that I have, which is I'll get a pair of the Emotiva XPA DR1 monoblock for the Grand Utopias. Those are $1,500 each, and those will pump about 1,000 watts into each speaker. And then for the center and the surrounds, 3 of the Emotiva XPA DR2, which is just the two-channel version of it, and will give me plenty of power to all the speakers. Like I said, I didn't think I'm really not familiar enough with in-ceiling speakers, so I just didn't venture into that. But I would imagine if I was going to do that, the CAFs that John Phillips. Wait, was that you, John? No, it was
me.
It was you. Okay, yeah, the CAFs. CAF is a solid company. I don't know that Focal makes in-ceiling speakers. But that's probably where I would just look for the best in-ceiling speaker, and I'm sure those CAFs would be great. So anyway, that comes out to a cool 440,000 and change.
All right, John, I do have a little bit of bad news for you, though.
Uh-oh.
You are still $5.5 million away
Oh,
from
yeah.
Jeremy Kipnis's $6 million home theater.
Well, but that's the whole room, right?
Yeah, 16
That's treatments and
amplifiers.
everything.
No, I don't know how much it is, but we haven't spoken to Jeremy in a long time. I hope he's doing well. If somebody does know him, somebody listening to the show knows Jeremy, send a shout out to him for us. We had a good time talking to him, and I wonder how much his system would change today. But that's awesome, John. I appreciate you fully embracing the vision of unlimited. I simply, I don't have those champagne. It's not even champagne taste. It's the experience to know what to look for at the high end. The one thing I will ask folks is, are you buying Monster cable to go with all this?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. What cable are you going to buy, John Phillips?
I am not a believer in magic cables. I
Yep.
would just get whatever Amazon has or
Nice.
Blue Jean cable and be happy.
Yeah, Blue Jean or Monoprice. I'm with you, John
Yeah,
Rice.
I'm
Anything
probably-
different?
Yeah, I'm probably using Monoprice,
Yep.
just 12 gauge OFC.
Awesome. Take that Monster cable. We'll have none of your foolishness around here.
Hey, so I have a question for John Rice. Did you mention a gaming device?
Oh, I didn't bust his balls on that, did I?
Yeah, because if not, Sam's going to turn his nose up at you.
That's right.
I'm afraid I'm not familiar with that component.
Well, I will bring mine over for the first weekend and let you borrow it, John. How about that?
That's you can play it on the system all you want.
Awesome. We're down for Call of Duty Week 1. Awesome. Well, thank you, all four of you gentlemen. You brought very, very different perspectives, and yet we came together on a lot of things too. So I think anybody listening to this will have their own opinions, and this is where we throw it out to the listeners. We had a few folks that we invited to take this challenge to begin with, and now it goes out to the greater world. So if you're a Home Theater Forum member, a Home Theater United listener, or somebody who hears about it third hand, please come to the thread and tell us what you would do differently. We'll put all of our builds up there so that you can see the links that we've put together and the prices, and tell us why we're wrong or where you agree with us, and we'll go from there. Anybody have any last thoughts on the challenge before we kick it over to GBU?
Yeah, I'd just quickly say this exercise was interesting to me because it really illustrates how much value there is out there in the market compared to when I started. I mean, you really can when you put it out there at $1,000. I thought it was impossible, but you can really do it. And if you spend $5,000, you can get yourself a very nice system, and it certainly didn't used to be that way years ago.
No, when I first
Sorry.
started looking at a 40-inch TV was $6,500. Look at that compared to the value that each one of us brought to that $5,000 challenge. I would take any one of those systems over just that panel 10 years ago.
Yeah, it is amazing what you can get in a TV now for $500 or $600.
Yeah, and look at all the media and games and music that we have at our fingertips. It's truly riches. Anybody else have anything? Yeah. Either Todd's?
Yes, Sam. I mean, when I first did the $1,000, you saw what I picked. It was very, very basic. It was a sound bar and a TV and a disc player. But then I rethought it this morning and was very surprised at what I was able to find, and got an actual real 5.1 system, actually a 7.1 minus the two speakers, using it in a 5.1 configuration, and kept it under $1,000. So I was always really surprised at that. I think what's also interesting is what brands we did not hear tonight.
Oh, like what? What one were you expecting to hear?
I was expecting somebody to throw in a Samsung TV.
That is interesting, right? I know a lot of the YouTubers, like the FOMOs and KG, those guys are all over the Samsungs, but I can't get behind them because they simply don't do Dolby Vision on a lot of their stuff, and to those guys, it's almost a positive that they don't. So I hadn't thought about it, Todd, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, I've been reviewing a lot of discs lately, and I don't think I came across a single disc that had HDR10 plus on it.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I've got in my house, I have nothing but Samsung, so I'm a big fan of theirs,
mhm.
but they're not the cheapest, so that's why I didn't include them in my
Mm.
lower price systems. And then once I got up to the $5,000 range, I wanted a projector, but otherwise I would have mentioned Samsung.
Oh, that's a great perspective, John. Thank you.
Well, it is right now. It is for bang for the buck. At this moment, it's really hard to beat TCL and Vizio. Not as much as a couple of years ago, but still, including Vizio. I mean, you just get a lot for your money from them.
Well, what's crazy to me is how Vizio and Oppo, to a certain extent, have sabotaged themselves. Right? They've just made decisions to go away from their core value, and I don't get that at all. So, but great perspectives. How about you, Todd Rice? I know this $5,000 challenge came closest probably to what you've got in your own, and I certainly wouldn't want to try to list out what what my budget was for any of my theaters because it really wasn't designed to hit particular price marks, just what I wanted at the time. So how does that match up to what you went through?
Yeah, I think the thing that surprised me on this exercise was even at the top end, I was surprised that not all of you went with some kind of projection system. I was especially surprised with you, Sam, when you said you'd have a television monitor on the wall. That kind of surprised me. And
Yeah,
I think this time of the year is a good time to find bargains, right? You have Super Bowl sales and then President's Day sales, so I think there was a good opportunity for all of us to find a great deal of savings on some of the equipment.
yeah, it's a dual-edged sword, right? It's the best prices of the year of last year's models and the worst prices of the year of the 2023s. So, pick your poison. Do you want the latest and greatest, or you want the best value? And honestly, the C2s are just such great TVs, and I know all the Samsungs and the Sonys from 2022 were terrific as well. So, I mean, you can pick your price point and pick an amazing set and have something that you can be proud of for years. So that's cool. Awesome. Thank you all very much. That leads us to our little game. So I'll once again throw it out to the listeners and readers. Please tell us what you do differently, and we turn our attention to the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we have our biggest game ever here. We've got 5 different players. So who wants to go first tonight? Don't all jump at once.
I'll go first.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead, Todd. Erwin.
Okay, so I've got Empire of Light, and I'm going to pull up.
This is about the George Lucas history. Is that right? Or Steven Spielberg?
No, I'm gonna read the description.
That's the famous
ones. I'm gonna read the description from HBO.
Okay, go for it.
Because that's kind of what got me interested in seeing it. Writer-director Sam Mendes' poignant love letter to the movies centers on the bond between employees of an old cinema in an English seaside town in the early 1980s. Starring Olivia Colman, Michael Ward, Tom Brooke, Tanya Moody, Hannah Onslow, Crystal Clark, with Colin Firth and Toby Jones. And I'll throw in cinematography by Roger Deakins.
Ooh. So, all right. Given Roger Deakins, I'm going to go last. What do you think, Todd Rice?
I think because it involves the theme of cinema, I think Todd Erwin is going to say he liked it. It was good.
All right. John Rice?
It's difficult. I haven't seen it, but it's difficult for me to believe that Sam Mendes would make a movie that wasn't at least pretty darn good. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say good.
All right. John Phillips?
Yeah, I'm thinking along the same lines. I don't really know Todd, but from what I've heard here, this sounds like a more of a cerebral, thought-provoking type of film. So I think he enjoyed it.
Okay, I'm going to echo all that. I'm going to say if Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins combine to do anything less than good, that's the first sign of the seals of the apocalypse have been broken. Todd, before you tell us the answer, have you seen Cinema Paradiso?
It's one of those films I've always meant to see.
Yeah, me
Oh, you
too.
gotta be kidding.
Yeah, I know. We're two embarrassments here, John. Neither one of us have seen it. It's a classic, and it sounds like it's something in the same genre here to me. So maybe I'll make it a doubleheader. But go ahead and tell us, Todd. Good, bad, or ugly?
Bad.
No.
I was afraid of that.
Oh no. Why is it so bad?
Well, I'll tell you the good stuff. Roger Deakins, beautiful looking film.
Yep.
Okay. And he deserved the Oscar nomination for this film, which he did get. And the performances are outstanding.
Okay.
The real problem with the movie is that the magic of the cinema is almost completely missing from the film.
Ooh. In what way? The plot?
It's just not there.
Yeah.
You could easily transplant this entire storyline into any workplace situation.
So it's the
It
office.
just so happens to take place in a movie.
It's the office of
there's
movie making.
There's only two scenes in the movie really that really show the magic of the movies. And one is a scene in the projection booth with Toby Jones, who plays the projectionist, and he's showing the new kid how the projectors work and how movies work. The only problem is when he explains how movies work, it's almost verbatim to the speech that is said at the beginning of The Fabelmans.
Oh, and I haven't seen that yet either. So I'm going to see
and
that with my folks next weekend.
Sorry, Sam. That is right out of Cinema Paradiso. It'd be interesting to see the difference in how those play, because that is a major factor in Cinema Paradiso.
And I'd be interested to see your take on the projection and scenes from Pearl too, which is not a great movie, but it does show its love for film in those scenes. Have either of you seen that, or any of you?
I've seen X, but I haven't seen Pearl.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of either of them. I keep hoping that they're gonna somehow turn to my taste, but neither of them have been. All right, who's up next?
I'll go.
Go for it.
So my pick is Elvis, the
Ooh.
recent semi-biopic of Elvis and his relationship between Colonel Tom Parker.
Okay.
And the fall and rise of a 50s, 60s, early 70s superstar rock person.
Yep, I've seen it, so I'll go last. Todd, Erwin, have you seen it? You have think whether Todd Rice might have liked it or not?
I reviewed it.
And did you give it a positive review?
No.
Oh, okay. John Rice?
Well, Baz Luhrmann is one of those love-hate things. I have seen it. I'm not quite. I sort of enjoyed it because I realize it's not a biopic. Maybe it makes me think of, well, anyway, like Blonde or something. It's not as unhinged as Blonde, but I'm gonna guess he probably didn't like it. At least a bad or an ugly.
All right. Swing vote, John Phillips?
Yeah, in this case, I think I would be the swing vote because I have not seen the film, but I've heard a lot of chatter about it, and it's all been positive. I am almost certain I will enjoy it because I'm just interested in the history, and kind of like John Rice alluded, I'm forgiving of it doesn't have to be absolutely on point as long as it doesn't represent itself as being a documentary. I expect that. So that's the way I would look at it. So I would think he enjoyed it as well.
I did see it, and I had mixed feelings on it. I thought that, believe it or not, that Tom was the the weakest part of it. I didn't like his performance. I thought it was a little bit saccharine and a little bit too heavy on the diction and the take on the voicing and the being slimy and all that. I absolutely loved the performances within it, and I thought that it looked like $1 million on screen and on an OLED with HDR. It's got some of the best HDR. What's the word I'd even use for it? But just sparkles that come from things that are on top of the action, right? That there's, just I think most of it's CGI, I think, but I thought it looked pretty good. I think as a movie, I'd call it like a B-. But do I think that he thought it was good, bad, or ugly? I'm going to come down on good, and somebody else had something to add before we go to the verdict.
The word you're thinking of, I think, is highlights, Sam.
No. It's not even the highlights. HDR highlights are key to it, but there are
just the general dynamics of it.
Yeah. Because it's those highlights in motion, if that makes sense. Things are kind of, it's Vegas showy, and I think that it does that better than any other just general highlights in a movie ever.
It's very visually dynamic.
Yep.
So it's Baz Luhrmann, you know.
Yep, for sure. All right, give us the verdict.
So I was entertained by it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have to say good, but and the but is it was just so glossy and so it was like 3 hours long.
Yes.
But there was so much more, and I'm of the age, I'm 59, so when I was a kid, Elvis was a big deal.
Yep.
You'd watch all the movies on the 3:00 movie theater on a local station, and this kind of treated him like that, right? Like Elvis is a mythical
larger than
mythical
life
figure at this point, right?
Yeah,
almost like a superhero.
Yeah.
And I get that, right? Because even during the Vegas days, the guy wore a cape, for gosh sake.
Yeah.
And he did karate kicks and all that.
Sure.
But I think a more proper treatment of the Elvis story would be like on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu, a 10-part series or several season series for each decade, because just from what I remember as a kid seeing in the newspapers and the National Enquirer, that the craziness that surrounded him, buying people cars or getting on the jet plane just to fly from Nashville to Colorado for a peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah.
The guy was a really complicated figure, and as entertaining as I found the movie, I still thought it was just scratching the surface of a very complicated person, and the relationship with a very manipulative and controlling manager.
Yep.
But it's not a story that goes away, right? We see that today with some of the contemporary artists, how they make fortunes and other people hangers on take it. So I think it's such a complicated life story that it deserves a better treatment than what I got in this film. So although I was entertained, I don't know what the right category is, right? Maybe a little ugly. I thought, like I said, I enjoyed it, enjoyed the music, and learned some things that may or may not be true. You'd have to do some research, but and even back then, like the artists, like he would perform like 2 shows a day. Those guys back then, the Tom Jones and all that, they do 2 shows a day. And then when I was doing some research, he had a mobile recording studio, so he's doing 2 shows a day and recording during the day. I mean, it was so complicated a person that I think it's difficult to do it justice in a 2 or 3 hour movie.
Excellent. I think you were just wishy-washy enough to not come down in any category to make it it an easy call.
I was entertained, but
Yeah.
I just I would recommend people see it. I wouldn't say don't see it, but then I would say follow up with some research, because the true story is even more bizarre than what you saw on the screen, I think.
Excellent. So we got the Johns left and me. You guys want me to go first, or one of you want to jump in?
Take your pick.
All right, I'll
Okay.
go. My choice was Licorice Pizza, Paul Thomas Anderson, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Who wants to jump in on the guess here?
I'll go. I think this is something Sam would like. I saw it. I thought it was okay. It's different, and I do like different. You know, I get a little tired of the smash 'em ups and explosions. I found it to be entertaining. I think Sam will say it was good.
All right.
I'll go. I
Go for
guess. I'm not sure. I mean, I've known Sam for what 20 years. I mean,
Yep.
interacted with him. I'm just not sure P.T. Anderson is your cup of tea. So I'm gonna say probably bad, but not ugly.
Okay. John Phillips.
I am flying blind here because I have never heard of this film, but based on the title alone and what I think I know about you, Sam, I'm going to say you enjoyed it.
Okay. Have you seen any other Paul Thomas Anderson movies?
No,
Okay.
not to my knowledge.
Okay. Todd Erwin.
I'm going to say you liked it, but I did not.
Okay. All right. You ready for the real answer? Definitely bad. There were elements that I liked, but I did not like either character. I found nothing to root for in either of them, which I guess is kind of the point. I do like Paul Thomas Anderson movies. And I gotta say, overall, he comes up with things that make you think, and there was nothing within this movie that I found that I could cling to, despite being in the target audience for the era of nostalgia that he's evoking. There was another recent movie with, what the hell? I just had it on the tip of my tongue. That was the same general age, and I had similar complaints. But nostalgia is a hell of a drug, right? And if your audience isn't with you on what you found so magical about a particular age, it is very, very difficult to get them on your side. And was not impressed with the acting abilities of the leading lady, Miss Haim. I don't know much about her music or her family, who also starred in this with her. The lead actor was very good at being a slime ball, but I mean that's all there was there, right? Didn't find a whole lot to hang my hat on to root for, to have hopes or be even interested in how this was going to resolve itself. So kind of a bummer. I was looking forward to it. Licorice Pizza is another term for a vinyl audio disc. There's a great soundtrack, but how that relates to this particular story kind of escapes me. That's all I got to say. All right.
I totally agree with you, Sam.
Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not on my own.
And-
I haven't read any of the reviews, by the way. I'm definitely going to research it tomorrow.
You can look up mine.
Okay, great. We'll do. We'll put
But
it in the show notes.
Licorice Pizza, during the time that movie took place, was a chain of record stores. Also.
That's right. It was like a Tower Records competitor.
Yeah, more, and I think they got taken over by Sam Goody.
Okay, and so also
really dating ourselves there.
Yeah, but also never referenced in the movie, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay. All right, John Phillips, I'm picking you because I know this movie and I don't know John Rice's, but yours was up with Beowulf. You want to say anything about it or just let us go at it blind?
Oh, no, I'm not going to say anything until after you guys
Okay.
chime in.
All right. Let's go with John Rice to start with.
All right. Well, I saw this when it came out on video, which has been 15 years, I think, and I have it on Blu-ray. I've just never watched it. And believe it or not, I've actually read Beowulf.
In the original Middle English?
I think it was the original text. Yeah, it was, one of those like honors English classes in high school. And it is It is a wild story. I remember some things I liked about it a lot, but then I never watched it again. And I'm gonna guess what I know of John, that he was less than thrilled with it, but probably didn't hate it.
Okay, so you're going to go with bad but not ugly.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, Todd Erwin?
This is the Robert Zemeckis one, right?
Yeah, the anime, right? Animated?
Yeah.
Or performance capture one. I'm going to say bad.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Todd Rice?
So far, I'm 0 for 2. So my inclination is, because he brought up an older film, he's going to like it. But I'm going to go against my instinct and say ugly.
I, too, am going to say ugly. I, too, read this in middle school. I love the story. I love the way that it's written and the rhyme and meter of it. I recently purchased the Tolkien translation of Beowulf. I have not cracked it open. It's still sealed. But I remember not liking this interpretation of the story at all, and was completely off-put by the animation and motion capture, as Todd points out. So tell us, Mr. John Phillips, good, bad, or ugly?
Well, it's exactly as John Rice said. I had this sitting in my collection for years, and then I just was thumbing through it, and I was like, you know what? I paid for it. Let me go ahead and watch this. And my first impressions were the animation, or whatever you call it, was really weird. It threw me off. And the story it didn't really grab me. But I watched it in 3D, and that element did make it entertaining.
Ooh, plot twist.
Yeah. And I love pretty much anything Anthony Hopkins does, and Robin Wright Penn did a great job. Again, the animation kind of took away from that, so I can't say I loved it, but I wouldn't go as far as to say it was bad either. It was just kind of like, if you pull something out of your collection that you weren't expecting anything from, and it entertains you, then you're kind of ahead of the game. So I would give it a not to dodge the categories we've identified here, but I would give it a B minus. I would say it was bad but not ugly.
Outstanding. All right.
I just want to toss in, I vaguely recall really being intrigued by somehow how they handled Grendel, and I can't remember what it was. I just thought I just remember thinking, well, that was cool. That was an interesting interpretation of Grendel.
If I remember right, they make him kind of sympathetic, right?
He's a bit of a troll. It's just been so long, I can't remember specifically what it was.
Yeah, he's sympathetic when he interacts with his mother, but that's the only time, or when he's losing, in a battle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every villain's the hero of their own story, right? All right. Well, that leaves us, Mr. John Rice, with The Fallout, something I've never heard of.
Yeah, The Fallout. This movie technically is a 2021 release, but I looked it up, and the only place it was seen, I think, in 2021 was at South by Southwest. So it's really a 2020. I mean, it was premiere. It's no. I think it's the only time it played in the theater. It premiered on HBO Max early in 2022, and so it's a story that revolves peripherally around a school shooting. And it's not really about the shooting, but about the impact on, in particular, 3 students who, under normal circumstances, would probably never exchange a word with each other throughout their entire high school career, and just how this brings them together, and the fallout, the impact on them, because it's really about the fallout, the aftermath of this shooting on these 3 teenagers.
Okay, Todd Rice, you probably know the least about John Rice's likes and dislikes here. Why don't you guess first?
Yeah, so I'm 0 for 3 now. I'm gonna see if I can bat 1,000. Um, I think he's gonna say good. It sounds artsy to me, and John's, from what I've picked up, what he's gonna be putting in this No Limits home theater. I think he probably found it to be a good movie.
Okay, Todd Rice.
Did you mean Todd Erwin?
I'm sorry, Todd Erwin. Too many Rices, too many Johns, too many Todds. Todd Erwin.
Okay. I'm going to say he liked it. And by the way, I did look this up earlier today, and the actress who plays Wednesday Addams is in this.
Oh, okay. All right. John.
She was also in X.
Yes. Yeah. John Phillips.
I think that this movie, it sounds like it deals with relationships, and it does deal with tragedy, but it deals with relationships. And I think, based on what I know about John, he probably he didn't really talk about the technical aspects of the film, but as far as the story, I think John probably enjoyed it.
Okay, and I'll close this out. I can't imagine that John thought this was anything but good. I didn't recognize the name and I didn't look it up, but based on John's description, I do remember this coming out, and I do remember there being some buzz about it, that it was kind of cathartic, kind of combative, and an interesting take on this issue that's only gotten worse in our country. So take it away, John. Good, bad, or ugly?
Well, I'm going to confess, when I get the opportunity to come on this podcast, I'm not going to waste my time with a movie I don't like. This was my favorite movie of the year.
Oh, excellent. That's great. But now we've got you pegged for the next time, so you're going to have to take a left turn.
Well, yeah, maybe I'll fake you out. But yeah, it does. The stars Jenna Ortega. This was the first time I'd seen her in anything. I haven't seen Wednesday. I did subsequently see X, and based on this, my takeaway was she is the real deal. Seriously. Some of the other stars, Maddie Ziegler, who's not very well known, she had a very small part in. I think she had one line, but she danced in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. Niles Fitch, who's pretty much just mainly known as the teenage Randall in the TV show This Is Us. Has Julie Bowen, Shailene Woodley in a very small role. John Ortiz, who's one of those people you don't know his name, but just see him and you're like, oh yeah, that guy. I think it's exceptionally well written. I read some criticisms on about the 4 comments that there are on Home Theater Forum of it, which shows how widely viewed it is. And I think they're misunderstanding. I really was impressed with the dynamics of how different people react. Especially one of the things I found particularly interesting was 2 of the sets of parents. The one set of parents who are wanting so much for their daughter to overcome this and recover, that they're very realistic, that they're actually impeding her by being excessively positive and kind of not letting her progress in her way. And then there's another set of parents who are just completely absent. And there was a comment that, well, no parent would do that. It's like, yeah, except the ones who do. And because not all parents cares about their kids.
Yeah, and everybody processes things differently, whether it happens to them or somebody that they love, and knowing how to support somebody in that is not something we're taught, right?
Right. And a detail I found especially intriguing is the one character who is undeniably the most who who was harmed the most through this, is the one who is most able to recover from it. And I also want to point out, I was really appreciated that this is such a political thing, and it could have gone highly political, and it doesn't even slightly.
Oh, that's great.
Because that's not what it's about.
Yeah, that's exactly where I thought you were going to say, is that, there was, left-leaning liberal and right takes on this. And I'm happy to hear that's not the case.
There is none of that. And it has one of the most impressive final scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
Well, that's high praise, John. And it's still on HBO Max, or how did you see it, or how?
Yeah, I think it's still on HBO Max. I liked it so much. It was on sale on iTunes a while back, and I bought it there, just figuring knowing I'd have it and probably get a better, get a better image, because I'm not sure it's even available on disc, modern days.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's high praise, and I'm really happy you found something to dig into, and I will definitely check it out. All right.
It's definitely one of those slow burn, completely dialogue-driven movies.
I mean, we eat those up too, as much as we do shit blows up good movies. All right. Well, with that said, we're going to take us out of here. Anybody have anything they want to promote or point folks to, particularly you, Todd, Erwin? Anything you've reviewed lately you want folks to see on the forum?
Check out my review of The Fabelmans, and if you're listening to this the day that this is recorded, today is the last day you can enter to win a free digital copy of The Fabelmans. That would be February 20th. It's the last day you can enter for that.
All right, Fabelmans, good, bad, or ugly?
Oh, good.
Oh, good. Okay.
Great.
I'm going to see it next weekend with my parents, so we're looking forward to it. Awesome. John, anything final to say?
I'm good.
Okay.
JVC and Sony, stop charging extra for your 3D emitters.
I concur. And bring 3D back so that I stop being the villain on Home Theater Forum telling people it's not coming back.
It's not coming back.
It's not coming back. Todd Rice, final word.
Thanks for having me on again, Sam. I had a great time, and I learned a lot from
Awesome.
the other three guys here. Thanks.
Thank you so much for giving us the idea. You guys are always welcome back on the show when you have something interesting to bring to us. I've been looking forward to doing this show for 2 months. We have at least one more super cool, different take on the industry lined up, coming soon. Hint, hint, can't tell you any more than that. But look forward to more Home Theater United shows coming up soon. And we'll talk to you guys, all of you guys again, I'm sure of it. So thank you all very much. Have a good night. Happy President's Day. And talk to you next time.
All right. Thank you.